Hey, my name's Nate Greene, and today I'm going to be reviewing Prey. Now, it's not an exaggeration to say that you've played Prey before. And no, I'm not talking about the 2006 game of the same name. In fact, the only thing the two games have in common is the fact that aliens are in it. Now, this Prey... No, wait, this Prey... Damn it, hold on.
Tough guy.
This Prey. Fuck. Alright, well, if you couldn't tell, Prey 2017 draws inspiration from a few different games. Primarily System Shock 2, but it plays like Bioshock with a sorta Dishonored superpower vibe to it. I mean, hell, the working project name was Project Danielle, of which came the character in Prey, Danielle Sho. And if you reverse her name, you get Sho Danielle, Shodan. Yes, like that. Shodan. Such obvious homages to classic titles like those don't really hurt Prey, because honestly Prey is really good. Though it does sour the experience a little bit when certain aspects, such as, say, audio logs, don't really measure up to the quality of the games they're drawn from. It's difficult to extricate those aspects when Prey has done so much legwork to let you know exactly what they were going for, but ultimately fell short. There is a cohesive subplot being told through the audio logs, which is nice, but only a handful even remotely stuck with me. Aside from the aforementioned Danielle Sho, her girlfriend Abby, and 2 or 3 others, I never really got a sense of who these people were. There were just simply too many characters to keep track of, which is an issue that Bioshock or System Shock 2 didn't necessarily have. In Prey, you play as Morgan Yu, the androgynous name coming in handy since you get to pick whether you play as Brogan Yu or Femme Yu. Like most titles, the decision to play as dude or chick Morgan has zero impact on the plot, and character interactions, and name it. It doesn't matter. I personally played as Femme Yu to continue the spirit of my ill-fated femshep. May she forever rest at the bottom of that rubble heap. And a desire to see if she'll end up as badass as, say, Ellen Ripley. Short answer? It's really hard for a silent protagonist to come off as badass, but my Morgan sure did wreck shit. Morgan wakes up one day to find that the space station she lives on, Talos 1, has been invaded by aliens. Oh no! What's going on? Why is Morgan a stereotypical silent protagonist with amnesia? And that's what you get to find out. And honestly, that's really all there is to the story. I mean, there's a couple nice surprises that weren't entirely surprising. And the ending, for all of its divisiveness that I've seen online, isn't all bad. As a whole, though, the plot holds up. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it does a good job of setting the stage for you to go out and explore, which, if you're anything like me, is what you'll be spending most of your time doing. The aliens in Prey, called the Typhon, are pretty fucking terrifying for most of the game. Morgan is especially squishy, and with healing items and ammo being scarce enough for there to be, some actual tension. The most common enemy you'll fight are the Mimics. Spidery little fuckers, seemingly comprised of pure paranoia and anxiety. These things can take the shape of just about any item in the game. So be prepared to question every shadow out of the corner of your eye and every item that looks slightly out of place. And then ask yourself, is what's in this room worth dying for? Now proceed to run in and hit everything with your wrench until it's dead, you're dead, or you feel like an asshole because that actually was just a coffee cup sitting slightly askew on that dead guy's desk. Beyond the Mimics are the Phantoms, humanoid Typhon that can't mimic, but they can smear your beaten and bloodied corpse all over the walls with their superpowers. They come in a few flavors, fire, electric, and etheric, all of which have different and very creative ways to murder you. There's several more types of Typhon, beyond Mimics and Phantoms, that are actually even more difficult than these two, but they're best left for you to find and be ruthlessly slaughtered your first time fighting them, just like I was. It's fun, it's a good time. Now the real joy here is in Prey's exploration. You'll find items in every little nook, cranny, drop ceiling, ventilation shaft, and every item you'll pick up actually has a use. Kinda, in a roundabout sort of way. That banana peel, used cigar, or Typhon tumor you grab will allow you to craft just about any item in the game, provided that you have 1. Access to a recycler, 2. The fabrication plan, and 3. The raw materials to produce it. Taking all the junk and throwing it into the recycler is how you'll get 99% of all your raw materials. There's also recycler grenades, which do the same thing, but like in a localized grenade form, but that's a whole other deal. But then you take those raw materials to the fabricator, and you make just whatever your little heart desires. Need a shotgun? Here you go. Need a few more neuromods to become the overpowered monster we all deserve, but not the one we need right now? Fabricate away. Recycling and fabricating will be a main source of items for you, and it's a good system. Materials are scarce enough to where you can't fabricate an absurd amount of anything. Typically, you'll have just enough for what you need, and that's coming from me, the asshole who left no desk unflipped and collected absolutely fucking everything. And now for a quick aside about a small but significant achievement in Prey, the 0G sections. I really don't think I've seen 0G done so well in a game before, and it's exactly as I've heard and read it described by people who have experienced it. Primarily disorienting. In the several areas where there is no gravity, I found myself having to constantly realign my thinking to the specific room or area I was in order to stay oriented. In terms of those of you who've read Ender's Game will recognize, the enemy's gate is down. That line played over and over in my head as I scrambled to find some distinguishing characteristic in each room to refer to as down. No other game has ever challenged me in that way before, and it was just really impressive. Moving and fighting in a full 3D space like that really added to Prey, and the intensity generated is not something I'm going to forget anytime soon. It was fucking great. It was fantastic. Though a big sticking point for me is in that same intensity. Prey's admittedly excellent balance of resource management, enemy difficulty, and Morgan's overall inability to take hits, but to keep that up to the point where it can keep you on edge consistently is too much. I found that it was better to play in short-ish bursts. I mean, your mileage may vary, but nonetheless, I recommend playing in short bursts rather than an all-day marathon. I think my longest play session was about 4 or 5 hours, and by the end of that, I was beyond ready to call it a day. Pacing yourself is important in Prey, and honestly, you'll be able to tell when it's time to call it quits. And now for what all 4 of you still watching are probably frothing at the mouth to find out about, your powers. You begin with the ability to augment your natural human abilities. Strength, combat focus to slow down time, health, and so on. But starting about a quarter way through the game, you get the Psychoscope, which allows you to scan the Typhon and thereby learn their abilities. All these upgrades require neuromods, both human and Typhon, and they are far from rare. And that's where the real superpowers come in, with Typhon powers. With it, you can gain telekinetic bursts, pyrokinesis, you can make your own allied phantoms out of human corpses, which is super cool, and even some silly, wacky, but still useful shit, like morphing into coffee cups yourself. All the abilities have their use, and I never felt disadvantaged by spreading myself as thin as I did, which was pretty damn thin. No matter your build, the game is designed to be finished with that build, and that's not something even System Shock 2 can claim. Now, the weapons you'll get are pretty standard fare. You got your pistol, your shotgun, your energy cannon, and wrench. And tossing a wrench into the standard fare here is the glue gun, which is spelled Gloo, not Glue, is essentially your best friend. It's capable of freezing most enemies in place, plugging dangerous leaks from pipes, and even building platforms for you to climb. The glue gun is to Prey as the gravity gun was to Half-Life 2. It's a fun gun the developers came up with and made central to the gameplay. I built just absolutely innumerable staircases to get to higher areas with it, and froze more Typhon than I would honestly care to count, only to bash their etheric skulls in with my wrench shortly thereafterwards. It's pretty great. I enjoyed it a lot. Yet another big downside to Prey comes in its last act, unfortunately. In it, the pace of the game is just destroyed. It's shattered, and you find yourself with no time to explore, and you find yourself under very literal, constant attack that you may or may not be able to really deal with. What was once a tense, exploration-based game turns into something rivaling the just awful wave-based Little Sister defending segments of BioShock, except that it never ends. Until a story trigger is hit, it doesn't stop. Adding to the annoyances is how you'll be moving from area to area on Talos 1, which each has its own 1 to 2 minute loading screen. In some cases, I made it to the next load screen in less time than it took to load the damn area I was just in. It's not an issue earlier in Prey because of the pace, but when Arcane broke the game the way they did, loading very much became a source of annoyance. I maintain, though, through all of its faults, that Prey is a very good game. It's not going to be my favorite game of the year. It might not even crack the top 5, but it's solid, and it's the best System Shock / BioShock style game to come out in a long time. Unfortunately, the parallels drawn between it and such classics are only to its detriment, which I say with as much fairness and resistance to nostalgia as I can muster. When the only downsides to a game are that it's not quite as good as the inspiration it draws from, has maybe 3 hours of bad pacing and long load times, and those are the worst problems that you have, I have no hesitation in recommending it. Also, it made me feel like a really good person because, and I quote, I completed the game in the most empathetic way possible. So yeah, I'm a good person. According to a video game achievement. And I'll take it. Did you like my review? Feel free to shit on me in the comments, whether you did or didn't. I mean, doesn't matter. Or you could always compliment me and how fantastic of a human being I am. After that, you can subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter, @NateGreeneGames, and even like this video if you're so inclined. You don't have to, but it'd be nice. Or you could not do any of that. Really, it's on you. But don't you want to complete this video in the most empathetic way possible?